Caution before watching. This is a continuation of part 1 of The Last Bite by Night Video. If you haven't watched that already, go give it a watch please. And now, on to... Oh boy, the maps. Undoubtedly the most unfair part about this game. The amount of loops the survivors can do is just awful. The best example of this being... Now, I won't talk a lot about this map because I'm sure you've seen countless other people say how poorly designed this map is, so we'll say the main problems. Just take one good look at this footage right here. A survivor can loop around like 3 insanely good loops. This isn't even mentioning every other loop on this horrid map, just the best and most stupidest one in my opinion. Even if the killers use their anti-loops, Springtrap's Bear Trap and Scream, Ennard's Wire Eyes, 2 out of the 3 killers can barely do anything about it regardless if they use their anti-loops. Mimic isn't in this list because obviously his speed mode has insane, well, speed. Now, what would I rate this map out of fairness? 9 out of 10 for survivors and a disgusting foul horrid 4 out of 10 for killers. Thank God the other maps aren't as bad as the forest, right? Yeah, you probably saw this coming. This area is by far the best looping spot in this map. Although, all killers can counter this spot pretty easily and decimate whoever tries to loop around this area. Ennard can abuse the hell out of the Wire Eyes and just spam them until the survivor gets off, Mimic with his speed mode, and Springtrap's Bear Trap and Scream. Plus, it's very easy to bait people off the ledge as killer and go in to corner them for free damage or maybe even a kill. Stupid Goo Goo Gagas will end up hiding here the whole round, so at least you'll know where some people are once the round starts. I see a lot of people complain about this in public servers that I'm in, but I actually think it's a cool and fun balanced gimmick. First off, the power is very limited, being only around 5 seconds, which is great for stalling. But if the killer is good at zoning, this could be a huge mistake for a survivor as they have nowhere to go unless their teammates help. Especially if it's Springtrap. You're fucked if you go in the office. Secondly, you can bait the survivor into thinking they're safe by not going down the hallway and ambushing them. Not a very good strategy, but still works nonetheless. Now, what rating does the current most fair map in the game get? Well, both get a nice, clean 7 out of 10 for killers and survivors. I'm very mixed on this area of the map. It seems pretty balanced, but for some reason every time I go there when the killer is chasing me, it somehow always catches up to me no matter what path I take. That could be just me being bad, but whatever anyway. As I said, I think this loop is pretty balanced with the pallet near the middle of the loop, letting the survivor get gutted if the killer predicts where they're going. The elevated platforms is a fun area to go on top of when you're in a pickle, and not too bad for both parties. Boy oh boy, does this area of the warehouse hold so many stories. Definitely is one of the areas of all time. Nothing really notable about it, but shit goes down in this place. Killers camping the exit, the highest frequency of teamwork, at least for my rounds, and the crazy looping around the pallet. If you're in LMS, you basically need to go here, unless the killer can trap the hell out of the 2 corridors that lead into here, which is why I always haul my ass towards here a molecule of the LMS image shows up on my screen. This area could be a great place to heal someone up if the killer is distracted on someone else, check cams, or do the objectives that are in this big room mid-game. Or of course, just stalling around the main loop. Make sure you don't fall into the hands of the dead ends though. It could be fatal. But make sure you get out quick once the exit opens, because 2 out of the 3 killers can cock-block the exit. In short, this major area is the backbone of this map, and honestly I think the loop is pretty fair. So, what do I give my baby warehouse on the fair scale? A. 6 out of 10 for killers and a 7 out of 10 for survivors. On to the finale of this 2-part video, ending with going over. First up, my personal favorite whenever I'm feeling jolly, the security guard. Overall, I think he's decently balanced. Let's go over his taser gun first. The taser charges up slowly, upgrading its stun time and effects it gives to the killer if it hits. I won't go into detail about the stats because I assume you know them already. I like how it slows you down the more charge you have, encouraging good placement usage. But if I were to give it a nerf, it would be to slightly decrease the range near max charge, but increase the area of the hitbox. Another nerf would be to start a 1.5 second timer if the security guard goes behind a wall while stunning, because in my opinion that's a bit unfair, and for buff, maybe 0.6 seconds of iframes once the security guard shoots, because I've seen some pretty unfair things happen. Second ability, the cameras. In my opinion, I think it needs some changes. First off, give the highlight feature a 0.5 delay because I hear stupid babies playing security guard spam the fuck out of it, and it aggravates me. Secondly, decrease the max power for the camera by maybe 2.5 bars and make it regen much slower. You get camera power easily back by stunning the killer or doing generators. Third is make it highlight generators for 1 second, but you might say, hey, that's a bit overpowered, don't you think? Well, lastly, half the cameras, but make it random each round of how many cameras are gone, so that way you may not even be able to highlight the generators or killer as easily. And that's all for the security guard. What rating will I give this stunning class? An 8 out of 10 for the security guard. Woohoo! Medic. Oh, Medic. I've had so many mixed opinions about this guy, I honestly don't know what to think. Medics get so targeted so often if the killer has 2 cells of a brain. It's hard to form an opinion about a class I barely see anyone play. But from my perspective as playing Medic and seeing some other people play the class, it's fairly decent. The skill ceiling is pretty iffy, as it relies on placement in the round. Its 90 HP is barely noticeable except for when the killer is entered, because the amount of weird damage values. Anyway, time to get to the abilities. First up, the most barebones healing ability, 5 HP every 2 seconds, totaling up to 30 HP, and giving 15 shield if max health. I always go for any medics in the round first because they're the equivalent of rats if they're good, and I advise every killer to do the same if they don't want any trouble. The cooldown is pretty big, so most of the time as medic you'll be doing generators or staying in the backline for people to heal. Medics will normally be protected like the cure to cancer if the team is smart, so go for them at the start of the match while everyone else should be on generators. On to the nitpicks of this ability. When you or the patient moves during the healing animation at all, it fully cancels it. Is this fair? Yes. Is it annoying if it happens on accident? Yes. What's the fix to this? Instead of giving health back every tick, it'll give health once the animation is done based on the amount of ticks happened. So let's say you let the animation play out for 2 ticks, giving 10 HP. Once you move, that will be given to you instead of during the animation. I know there's probably a better way to do this, but this just comes to mind first. Here's a rough example. Time for the second ability, The one I've been wishing a healing class gets in an asymmetrical game since the Robloxia Till Dawn. That being a self-heal. Healing around 60 HP with a gigantic cooldown, further amplifying people to hunt down medics like they're the reincarnation of Hitler. Since medics can't heal other medics, this ability is your lifeline if you're low. Just find a good time and place to use it, and you're good. In LMS, this ability can be extremely helpful, as if Springtrap is placing down traps not knowing where you are, you can heal all your lost HP. And yes, this can happen, or at least a similar scenario. And that's pretty much it for this ability. All I have to say about it is just use it when you're not in a chase. And I feel like it's pretty balanced. Maybe a slight heal nerf, but either way, it's not that bad. So, what do I give the medic class on the fairness scale? Now on to the most popular survivor. The fighter. Undoubtedly the most popular survivor class. With an extra 10 health to compensate with his encouraged defensive playstyle to protect others while they're doing objectives, healing, or just to stall, this class holds every team together. I'm sure you know how he works, so let's get into the word that this video is based on: fairness. First, let's go over the parry. This ability is the most perfect implementation of a parry in an asymmetrical game I've seen in a while. With its fair parry window, cooldown, and amount of things you can parry, it's fair all around. Except, there is one thing wrong. The parry should not stun the killer. Instead, in my opinion, it should make the killer lose access to all abilities including M1s, for the same amount of time the stun is. That way the survivor doesn't get all the way across the earth before the killer even gets unstunned from a simple parry. I'd also suggest for the killer to be able to get parried twice, because there's been multiple times when me and some other fighter parry at the same time and he gets the parry and then I get damaged, or vice versa. But that could be just a nitpick of mine and the bad communication. Tangent aside, let's review the main star of the show, the cream of the crop of this class. The axe swing. I'd say this would be pretty fair if the parry doesn't stun the killer. There is one more negative to this ability, which I could be wrong. The first swing applies around 6 seconds of slowness, which in my opinion is too much, so I'd offer to remove this. Furthermore, one change I would purpose is a mode switch, or just the prevention of stacking your stuns, as I personally don't think it's worth it. Additionally, one minor complaint I have about the hitbox is if some random object is in the way, it just won't hit. But that's all for the fighter. What will this stunning? Wait, I used this joke before. Help me low effort transition.
You stupid.
They're not.
You stupid.
They're not.
What's 9 plus 10?
21.
The Devil Incarnate as a survivor is what I would say if they didn't nerf this guy by a lot, and now customers are actually manageable. Like every other survivor class, I'm sure you know what this guy does, so I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of it. First up, or should I say, order up. Heh. I'm sorry about that joke. The pizza ability. Heals 20% health. Yada yada, you know how it works. Most of the time when I use it I'm around 70 HP, which heals 5 missing health. I see why people complain about this. Yes, it is very annoying to deal with if they're good, but you can just focus them down and trap them if you're playing one of 2 killers. But I do agree that the cooldown should get increased by a slight amount, and possibly increasing the animation time. But of course, if you leave them alone they'll snowball into getting all their health back. On to the other half of this class, the soda. Soda takes time to drink, gives speed then rest, yada yada, you know how it works. In short, it's very similar to adrenaline in Die of Death, having nearly the same buffs and debuffs. Honestly, I think this is fair because you'll need to have knowledge on where you plan to go, when and where you need to use it, etc. The only thing I would even think about changing is the amount of time you get the speed and increasing it, as personally I don't think it's worth the long start animation and the winded status effect. So, what do I give the devil that has been dethroned on the fairness scale?
first found you, you were nothing. You were small, pathetic. But now, you are more. Are you ready?
If you can't tell, I hate that bug. Anyway, on to the actual class. The newest major thing added to Byte by Night since release, the Technician. The most I can say about it, that it's the most meh class ever. By the time this video comes out, they have probably done a few changes with them and made them slightly better like the community has asked. So who knows if this section of the video is going to get outdated instantly. Anyway. First ability is the Field Disruptor. Or something like that. This might be the most useless ability in game, as it's destroyed by literally 1 M1. Making it 2 M1 seems fine, no clue why they didn't do that. Or they could increase the range of it, either would be fine. If they were to do either of these buffs, I feel like the cooldown should get increased by around 2 to 3 seconds, to prevent stacking technicians. But only time will tell with what they do with this class. In case you don't know what this ability does, it slows down the killer and gives them blindness. Yup. That's it. The amount of time it takes to set it down, it's completely unreasonable too. But to sum it up, useless ass ability because the killer can literally do a single M1. Now the main selling point for the survivor, the Vanny Mask ability. The advertisement of being able to phase through walls and get a distance through it seems amazing. But it's not all that good. Sure, you can do it at max of 2 times with no cooldown once you put the mask on. But there's not a lot of good spots to do it at. Yes, some of them are good of course. But it doesn't feel like you gain a lot of distance when you slam your head into a wall and spammy in hopes of it not lagging and the killer landing a free M1 on you. Plus, with the new DSD system, but a bunch of people already talked about that, so I won't get into it. Of course, this class isn't Abysmal Dog Dodo, as I believe you can pull off some crazy moves with it. I will admit though, this is a crazy cool concept for a survivor. I'm sure they can fix it throughout this game's lifespan. So for the last time in this video, how fair is it?